This is footage covering a 24-hour period while in Durmitor National Park in Montenegro from a trip I did in 2021 with my friends Austin and Ian. Here we are arriving at the Airbnb, and one of the best things about Montenegro is the price to rad views ratio. I mean, for like 20 bucks a person per night, you get a place like this just outside the park with 10 out of 10 views. Even though we had such amazing views right outside our windows, our first order of business upon arrival was to try on Austin's favorite socks from Cotton On and let him know if we also thought they were easy to put on and liked how well they stayed up. He said something about him starting a blog for 75-year-old men, and this is one of the most important issues plaguing their generation, and he needed to get feedback on it ASAP, so we were happy to oblige.
All right, we got two believers here.
Once we got the soccer view out of the way, we decided to grab food at a restaurant right near where we were staying. They mostly served traditional Montenegrin dishes, many of which we had never heard of. And I can't remember the name of this particular dish, but when we asked the waiter if it was something he recommended, he sucked his teeth and said, I think it is too strong for you guys and you won't like it, but it will give you lots of energy. Ian was adventurous and gave it a shot, and this is us laughing until we cried as he pretended like it wasn't just a huge bowl of something resembling oatmeal with a hilarious amount of cheese on it. Watching him choke it down was insane. So, crazy thing, after watching this clip again while prepping to put it into the video, I decided to do a little research and see if I could identify the dish that Ian is eating in this clip based on what I remember it looking like and how the waiter described it to us. I tried the search terms cheesy oatmeal Montenegro, and sure enough, there it was. It's called, I think, pronounced kashamak, and remember the waiter said, strong, you won't like it, but gives you energy. We'll look at the last line in the first description that popped up from Google. A mushy, strong meal made of wheat. And then at the end it says, and people in the villages prefer it because it gives them energy for hard labor. I couldn't stop laughing when I saw this. I mean, did our waiter write this article? Or did the guy that trained our waiter write this article? Because it literally says word for word what he said. Here we are the next morning starting what is called the Durmitor Ring. It is a road that loops the entirety of the park. We were advised by the locals to do it clockwise from the town because it would put us on the inside lane when driving on the sketchiest parts of the road and on the outside lane when we got the best views. When doing the loop clockwise like we did, you hit the most banger parts of the park right at the beginning. It's a little bit of a bummer because you feel like you don't want to leave this spot even though you have 80% of the park left to visit. And like all videos of nature, it really does not do this justice. I am not sure how Austin came up with this shot, but I think it turned out pretty cool, even though he just started filming a selfie style and didn't really explain what was going on. Somehow we just got on board with what he was doing and made the best of it. Definitely watch Ian. He's the one on the left with the hat.
All right, beautiful.
He was definitely committed to the shot, but didn't look comfortable at all doing it.
There we go.
Even though we eventually had to move on, we were given a few extra opportunities to take in the views while we waited for the Montenegrin traffic jams to clear up, and their traffic jams are 100% better than ours. In the park there are several little towns, and we came across this character hitchhiking in one of those towns and decided to give him a ride. He spoke no English, and none of us spoke his language, so we don't know anything about the guy, even though it's pretty obvious that he had a hot date, had nothing to wear, and decided to swipe the clothes off one of his neighbor's scarecrows. I mean, get a load of that smash straw hat, the freaking bow tie necktie combo, and the sick sport coat. These are just some real-life cartoon-style haystacks, not like the ones from the U.S. that are square blocks. You'll remember in like old cartoons, this is what they always look like, and my mom loves these, so this is mostly for my mom. We saw this sign in the park and thought it appropriate for Ian to get his picture taken here after having graciously scarfed down the Montenegrin cheese bowl special from the night before. Boy, did he have a lot of energy for the day. The last time I was in Montenegro, I basically did this exact same drive, which was only like 4 months before this trip. And when I came through this area, there was a lake in this valley. And these guys didn't believe me and started filming me be adamant that there should be a lake here, not just an empty field, like my brain was broken and like I had some sort of beautiful mind John Nash situation going on. So I call this section of the video a tutorial in gaslighting. You will see in the next clip, which is a video from my prior trip, that there in fact was a lake here, and I am not delusional, but the whole situation is pretty wild that a lake disappeared in a matter of months. As you can see, this is literally the exact same spot from the other video, and there's definitely a lake there. Near the end of the loop, if you did it in the clockwise direction like we did, there's a fairly short hike to the top of Mount Chertovac. It gives you an incredible almost 360 view of the Terra River Valley, which is said to be the largest canyon in Europe, depending on who you ask. I guess France has one too that is pretty big. Either way, it is well worth the hike, and it's very staggering to see this thing in real life. On the trip I had done earlier that year, in June, we discovered a town just off the highway between Durmitor National Park and the capital Podgorica that was full of Chinese people. The road signs were in Chinese, and the supermarkets had Chinese characters on all the labels. It was very wild. Come to find out, Montenegro had struck a deal with China to build this crazy bridge. It would end up costing them like a quarter of their annual GDP, and this town was right next to where all the Chinese workers were stationed. I mentioned all this to Ian, and for some reason he was so juiced and wanted to see the town. Anyway, in the process of looking for the town, we got very lost and ended up on some crazy back roads. We ended up driving down this very sketchy road in the dark that was supposed to lead us to a border crossing in Albania, according to Google anyway. After about 45 minutes of driving on this pretty primitive road in the rain, we decided to finally turn around and go back the way we came before getting stuck in the mud in the middle of the forest and having to quarterback some kind of rescue operation with people from Montenegro. Anyway, it put us about 3 hours behind schedule, but it was okay because Ian and Austin wanted to listen to this insanely boring podcast about the history of the Federal Reserve, so lucky us. We rolled into our hotel pretty late, so the only footage of our Albania accommodation that I got was from the next morning. It had a very interesting aesthetic. I had a sweet dry canal bridge feature, big gaudy medallion on the floor, a chandelier in the entryway. It reminded me of something that Tony Montana from Scarface may have designed. Also, we happened to be there at the same time as one of the Albanian pro soccer teams, so either this hotel was very rad or the Albanian Professional Soccer League doesn't pay that well. Well, there you have it. That's how we spent 24 hours in and around Durmitor National Park.